Welcome to the local campaign, and thank you for joining us for our debate for Knoxdale-Merivale Ward, Ward 9. I'm going to introduce the candidates in just a moment, but before I do that, I'll quickly walk through the rules for our debate today on Rogers TV. First of all, each candidate will begin with an opening statement of 60 seconds, 1 minute in length, and the order for those opening statements was drawn at random just a few minutes ago. Then we'll proceed to a series of debates about the big topics for Knoxdale-Merivale Ward and throughout the City of Ottawa. To start each debate, I will direct a question to one of the candidates. That candidate will have 45 seconds to answer the question on his own, and then we'll move into a debate about that particular topic with all of the candidates involved. At the conclusion of that debate, we'll go back to the candidate to whom the question was originally addressed, and he will have 30 seconds to wrap up on that topic. We'll move through a number of different topics that way, and then we'll have closing statements in the reverse order of the opening statements. Once again, they will be 1 minute in length. So let's meet the candidates who are here for the debate in Knoxdale-Merivale Ward. They are James Dean, Warren Arshinoff, Keith Eglee, Peter Weber, and Luigi Mangione. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us. And let's begin with the opening statements, and we'll start with James Dean. You have 1 minute.
Hello, my name is James Dean. You can find me at www.jamesdean.ca. I grew up in the neighborhood. I went to St. Gregory's, Frank Ryan, Merivale High School. I took business out of Algonquin College. Over the years, I've managed a $1.5 million business, and I've been running a $1 million a year cooperative housing business for the last 15 years, as well as I had my own property management business. The issues I'd like to, and currently I'm a local real estate agent. The issues I'd like to bring to City Hall are our skyrocketing debt. In 8 short years, the current City Council has almost tripled our debt. In 2010, it was $800 million. It is currently at $2.2 billion. We are paying $200 million a year to service that debt. That's a lot of money that they have to take from services in order to pay that. And this year alone, they board an additional $300 million. That's a 10% tax levy on your tax bill that you never even knew about. Thank you.
All right, we'll stop there and move on to the next opening statement from Warren Arshinoff. Go ahead, you have 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Warren Arshinoff. I was lucky enough to grow up in this beautiful community attending Sir Robert Borden High School. I've lived in the community for more than 30 years, and I'm a graduate of public administration at the University of Ottawa. I had the opportunity to serve on the youth cabinet representing this area under the leadership of Gord Hunter, and working with great people like Mayor Shirelli and Lisa McLeod, who were both involved with it at that point. I'm very happy to be running because I think there's a lot of issues that need to be dealt with in our community. I think there's significant issues with traffic and speeding in our community, and I think it's time we brought in the use of speeding cameras. I think we need to look at LRT. The project keeps being postponed over and over and over again at additional costs with a $1 million penalty to the proprietor. How much more is the city going to spend when we look at LRT2 and LRT3? And I think we need to look at how we can make the city more accessible to you, the voters, and your hard-earned tax dollars.
All right, thank you. Next up is Keith Eglee. Go ahead, you have 1 minute as well.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Rogers, for the opportunity to discuss the issues today, and thank you to my fellow candidates for participating. Most importantly, thank you to the residents of Ward 9 who are tuning into this debate and are very engaged in this election. It's been an honor and a privilege to represent and to serve the residents of Ward 9 for the last 8 years, and I'm asking to extend that partnership for another 4 years. We have made much progress together in a collaborative fashion and a consultative manner over the last 8 years. We've revitalized the Emerald Plaza Library. We've renewed a number of parks: Bateman, Inverness, Raoul Wallenberg, Steve McLean. We built a new park in City Place. We put splash pads in. We've designed cycling facilities such as Nepean Trail. And we've worked to create a robust seniors working group. There's much more to do, and knocking at the doors, thousands of doors over the last number of months, is providing me with the opportunity to continue those conversations with residents and hear community concerns and ideas. So on October 22nd, please vote to continue this partnership. Vote Eglee. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Peter Weber. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Peter Weber. I'm running for Ward 9. I want to live in my priorities I want to do is live in a more affordable, safer, greener city. I'm going to fix all the potholes and dented curbs and sidewalks to make it safer for walking, cycling, and driving. Now, I would like to have no red light cameras, no speed cameras, no gateway signs, better way of doing things, maybe a few stop signs to slow down traffic. I would like to improve parks, play areas, gardens, finding better solutions, a cheaper transit, lower fares, affordable housing, rent, everything to make our ward better and city. I also like to cut out waste that's happening. Waste was at Sportsplex. Millions of dollars for artificial turf that wasn't needed. Millions of dollars for transit on those hybrid buses that were not suited for us. Millions for a soccer field that was just meant for a soccer field.
That's time. Thank you. Finally, the opening statement from Luigi Mangione. Go ahead.
Hello, bonjour, buongiorno. I've lived in the Knoxdale-Merivale area for my whole entire life. I've gone to Laurier Carrière, St. Pius X High School, and I've graduated from Carleton University with a commerce degree. I've spoken to many residents in our ward, and the common theme of the discussions we're currently having is the misallocation of spending of our tax dollars and the safety and security that they currently are experiencing. They don't feel safe on our roads and sidewalks. They feel that private development may take away from their current and future green spaces. As a public servant, I've dealt with budgets and forecasting, and I have the insight and knowledge to know how the city budgets would function.
That's time. We'll stop there. Let's get into some of the issues now. I'm going to start with a question directed to James Dean. And as you know, we have just learned that Phase 1 of light rail is not going to be completed on time, even having missed one deadline already. It's going to be late again. And I want to ask you, should City Council have handled this differently, the oversight of this project, and what lessons are there from this that can be applied to Phase 2 and Phase 3 going forward?
Well, the light rail project was due in May originally, and when they were delayed, the City Council didn't even realize that the current contractors didn't have to pay the $1 million fine in May. You would think all the experience we have on council that one of them would have read the contract and would have known that that $1 million fine would have been delayed. We need to better pay attention to what's going on with our contractors, with all of our, we have thousands of contracts in the city, and the tendering process is very complex, and we're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on these, including light rail. We need to put more attention onto the actual development.
Okay, it's open to everyone now on this topic. Go ahead.
Well, Mark, I'd like to say, and as I said at committee earlier this week, it's very unfortunate that light rail has been delayed. But again, it's a question, I think, of keeping it in perspective. We went with the contract model we did because the City of Ottawa doesn't build railways. We hired someone to build the railway, same way you would hire someone to redo your kitchen and your bathroom. Those jobs don't always get finished on time. This one is being delayed. I don't disagree that we need more information about this, and one of the things that I said earlier this week as well is that we need to hear more from RTG. They need to be more accountable for what they're doing. But having said that, there are a number of financial safeguards in place. We can't lose sight of the fact that we're not paying for the maintenance of light rail at this point in time, so that's money that's staying in the city coffers and we're continue to use to run our bus service. We also get paid for the detours across the city that are in place as a result of the light rail construction. So money is still there. We're holding well over $200 million as leverage to get the contract finished. We don't have to release those funds.
I think the problem with our tendering process is that we are handing it off to our contractors and then turning a blind eye to what's going on. We need to see exactly what's going on.
We got lawyers and all the professionals in there. They need to read the fine print. Even the incumbent is a lawyer.
Yes, the incumbent
Correct. Is a lawyer. Read the fine print.
And the $1 million is payable if it doesn't get delivered in November, and will be payable.
When is the project to be opened up? first quarter of next year, second quarter, third quarter, 2020.
Again, do you want to have your new house, Peter, if the kitchen faucet's not working, if the electricity's
Get a
not
plumber in there and fix the
First
kitchen.
of all, we want it to be safe, and that's
2 years, 3 years.
Well, we don't know if it's safe because we haven't done the testing of the cars yet. We haven't done the
And
testing
we're going
of
to
the
sign a
cars yet
new
'cause we don't have
contract
them.
in December for the next phase? You nuts? You can spend another $3 billion the next contract? We haven't even tested the old one?
The issue that we need to be talking about is the lack of communication to residents from the city, from Rideau Transit Group, and from the OC Transpo Commissioner. There's no transparency at City Hall. These contracts are made sure that they're not talked to the residents. And if there is more delays, transit fares should be reduced to reprieve the residents who use public transit. If we can lower the fares by 50 cents for the next 3 or 4 months, or however long that the delay is going to be, it's simple economics. You lower the price.
We should lower the fares constantly over the years.
I know, but
you raise a very good point.
If you lower the price, the demand will go up, and that's the issue that is currently experiencing by OC
Myself and
Transport.
Councillor Blais earlier this week urged staff to go off and look at freezing any fare increases until the very earliest being that the service
But
is in
it's
place.
not
don't you
about
look at
freezing it, it's about lowering it to
costs
help.
so the normal riders don't have to pay so much. You look, who's your rider? Who's riding? Students, low-income families, everyone's at that age riding, but the fares keep going higher and higher and higher up.
The problem isn't only the LRT project the way it is, and that it's going to be delayed. The problem is that OC Transpo didn't know any better and decided to serve layoff notices to a whole bunch of drivers. You've made route changes that are effective September 2nd. How many more delays, how many more changes are the ridership going to be impacted by the city council overseeing it, and John Mangone and his team at OC Transpo not being able to be on top of the project? You want to talk about public safety? Absolutely. Let's do this project and let's do it properly. But number one, let's have a realistic and a reasonable penalty in the clause, in the contract, so if they don't get it right and they don't do it on time, we have the opportunity to recoup some of the lost revenue. The citizen bantered over the summer that it was $14 million in additional costs for OC Transpo. How much is it going to be this time, Keith? How many more dollars are we going to spend?
$4 million a month should be going to RTG to maintain it. It's not going to RTG because it's not open. That money's staying with the city. That money is being used to defray the cost. The treasurer reported out that we're covered off. We're going to be even in terms of dollars. We're not going to be out of pocket in 2018 as a result of this, and is now going back and looking at the budget and how we move the budget forward into 2019, so we'll have the same result
Is that
for
similar
taxpayers.
to buying those hybrid buses we bought for $200 million when they weren't needed for our system? We are on a short, we're not on a long system. So the hybrids work best on a short stop-and-go process.
Is there anybody here that can honestly say that that the city and taxpayers of the residents of Ottawa are legitimately getting the best value for their tax dollars right now with this project? This project is only downtown centric. If you're coming from the west end of Ottawa and going to Orleans, you're looking at bus transfers to another bus transfer, to an LRT transfer, back to the bus at Herdman. How many times are we going to be forced to switch buses in the cold of winter to accommodate this project, which is late, is apparently on budget, but nobody knows what's going to happen when, has been delayed 2 times.
If we could build the whole system at once, we could have. We can't build the whole system at once for financial reasons and obviously for logistic reasons. There'll be detours throughout the whole city. We have to build it in phases. It will be out to Baseline Station, which will serve our ward, which will serve the people in Barrhaven by late 2022, early 2023.
But that's, no. We will not sign the new contract without testing the RRT first in the first place. So that's another delay right there.
We've been assured there'll be no delay in phase 2 as a result of
Okay,
this.
we'll stop there. That's time. Thank you. And we'll go back to James Dean. I asked you the question. You get the last 30 seconds here.
So you can see there's an awful lot of frustration over this issue. City Council is coming back saying, we're not hearing from the contractors enough. There's a process. Contractors contact city staff staff approach the City Council. There is a huge hole in management. Management has not been paying attention. They haven't been putting enough attention to it. Now they're trying to blame the contractors. We need stronger management at City Hall. We need someone to pay attention. to read the actual contracts before they go out and make sure that they're held accountable for that.
All right, thank you. Let's move to the next question for Warren Arshinoff, and let's talk about the city finances. Where would you set tax increases for the next 4 years? And what would you do about what some people describe as mounting pressure on the city budget in areas like infrastructure and social services?
The good old days of Nepean were focused on a pay-as-you-go approach to spending. I understand with large-scale projects, even the ones that are mismanaged like LRT, that it's not always possible to not use any deficit spending. But the fact is we're spending way too much, way too often to fund projects that are important to councillors like splash pads that are not a necessity. And we're not spending the money that we need on road improvements, on community centers, on recreation. There's so many things that are lacking in our community, but it's not a priority. I would not vote or support a budget that went 0.5% or more than 0.5% above inflation. Unfortunately, societal factors dictate you can't always control things like gasoline for the fire trucks and police services. You can't control the epidemic of violence that's happening in our city and the need for more policing. But we have to put a line on spending, and 0.5% above inflation should be that max.
Okay, it's open to everyone now on the subject of taxation and also city finances.
I like to reboot the city of Ottawa. I like to roll back taxes. Taxes are way too high. Businesses and residents.
Well, Mark, what I would say is I think that the tax rate in the 2% range has worked reasonably well. But I take your point that
let's look at all the services what the city is offering. If I could
go back, one at a time, please.
If I could finish. But I do take your point, Mark, that there are services in the city like the condition of the roads, which needs more attention. That's what I'm hearing at the doors. There have been thousands of doors over the last couple of months. And the idea that seems to resonate with people is keep the taxes in around the 2% range, but create a dedicated
you've been talking to
a dedicated
infrastructure
levy of 1% for 4 years. That money goes directly to fixing the roads, repaving, dealing with those things. That works out to about $35 a year for an average taxpayer. That's a cup of coffee a month.
And it's way too much money.
A lot of cities
even undercut it on gasoline and diesel.
City Council have been told that we're $17 million short every year on critical infrastructure. So if Mr. Eglee is getting his information at the door, knocking on doors, maybe he should listen to his own city staff. $17 million short on critical infrastructure every year. This year, Council tried to cut $8 million out of the budget in addition to that. Councillors like Rick Shirelli stood up and said there's no way this is going to happen. He's going to put a tax levy on. The very last day of our budget process, they came out with a $22 million surplus. How could you possibly vote on a budget when you didn't have the numbers before the final day? You didn't know there was a budget surplus until the final day of budgeting. How did you go through all these voting processes, voting on a budget, and you had no clue about the numbers before?
And it's a standard practice before the final budget vote is to ask the treasurer, what is the status of the budget? Are we going to be in deficit? Are we going to be in surplus? Give us the latest snapshot of what the situation is. That's what Marion Simwick did. She told us the money was there, and then I thought we made a very reasoned vote as to how to deal with that money, how to spend it best for the taxpayers.
How to spend the money. Not give the money back to us, not give us a tax credit.
James, you're the one who says we have to fix the infrastructure.
In addition to our 2% every year,
money back.
They borrowed another $300 million this year. That's a 10% tax levy on top of the 2% they already gave us. Now you add in all the services they've cut. They've cut garbage, they've cut OC Transpo, they've not increased the police budget, and they're not going to remove snow on the back streets until it hits 7 centimeters and not remove snowbanks.
I'm glad you brought that up, James, because there's a fundamental misunderstanding there. There was a recommendation to change when we picked up snow on residential streets from 7 to 10 centimeters. That came to my committee. As chair, I moved a motion after hearing from people saying we don't want to see that change. We want to maintain the 7 centimeter, which has been the standard since at least amalgamation. So I brought the motion that kept it where people wanted it to be, so it didn't go up to 10 centimeters. And that's what happened on the snow question.
One of the things I found the most interesting is Keith talks about a dedicated 1% levy. How many more user fees, more taxes, more...
They're talking about user fees coming for garbage next.
Well,
So I'd like to get rid of
At
those.
the end of the day, we need to have one dedicated fee, one dedicated tax that goes to the city. It's enough of putting things on our water bill,
So we
seeing
need
extra
a
things on our
flat
hydro
tax.
bill. We can't keep creating a new user fee and a new levy so that Mayor Watson and his supporters like Councillor Eglee beside me can keep saying we have a 2% tax. We don't have a 2% tax. We have a 2% municipal property tax and a whole bunch of extra user fees and other fees buried under other bills to pay for our services. We're not paying 2% increase every year. We pay a whole
what
bunch.
services would you cut?
It's not about cutting services. It's about saying this is what you're paying City Hall for your services. I'm not going to create new and interesting names for it. I'm going to be straightforward and tell you these are the fees we have to have the city we live in.
Correct.
Let's have a reasonable discussion
These
and
are the
stop
taxes, that's all
burying
you're going
it.
to get. This is your budget. That's it. You're not raising anything else up. This is it.
we have to talk about how residents are paying more on rent, more on groceries, more on housing and everything else in their homes. Is it just that we have to pay an increase in taxes when our services are reducing in terms of snow removal, the quality of roads, in terms of how much we're paying for public transit? We need to spend what we currently have, and if residents want to pay more, the councillors should have the responsibility to effectively and efficiently spend the budget that we have.
Now, currently, to sustain the debt we have, we're paying $211 million a year. That's a lot of money that could go towards services. That $211 million is servicing our debt. In 8 years, they've almost tripled our debt. Where is it going to be in another 8 years from
That's
now?
just
How much
servicing the
more
debt.
money are we going to
You're
have to
not
pay,
paying
and
it
how many
down.
services are we going
James,
to
you
lose?
realize that sometimes the city borrows money because there's matching programs from the federal provincial.
how are you gonna
We
pay
have to
off
put
the
a
debt?
dollar-
Where are
we
you
have to put
paying
a
off the
dollar on
debt?
the table in order to get $1 from the province and $1 from the federal government. So we turn $1 into $3, and that's how we fund a number of our projects.
It's good to be in debt. The province was telling us it's good to be in debt, and it's good for the city to be in debt. We're paying $2 billion a month
Nobody's saying it's good
federally.
to
We're
be in
paying
debt,
$1
but
billion.
sometimes there are opportunities
It's time for a
that we don't
change.
wanna
Let's get out
pass.
of debt and stop going
Sure there is.
spiraling
Those
down this hole.
opportunities are just
one at a time, please.
those opportunities are just the city capitalizing on other levels of government giving us back our own money. So the city is saying we're going to borrow $1, the province is saying we're going to borrow $1, the federal government is saying we're going to borrow $1, and the only thing the residents know is they're now at $3 that they weren't out before.
Okay, we're going to stop there. Warren Arshinoff, I asked you the question, so you get the final 30 seconds on this topic.
Before we can talk about holding the line on taxes, we really need to discuss what are our actual taxes that we pay every month. What are the actual taxes that we see on our property bills? No one knows what a user fee is, what a levy is, what anything is. All we know is there's money coming in that we're paying out to the city, we're paying out to city services, we're paying for everything else. What we need to do is know what we're spending it on, and how we can curb it. Our water bills compared to other jurisdictions like Montreal are absolutely enormous, and it's unacceptable.
All right, thank you. Let's move to the next question, and I'm going to direct this one to Keith Eglee. In the past 4 years, there were a number of projects, including the Salvation Army shelter on Montreal Road, where residents felt that they were not properly consulted before the city moved ahead with a major decision. What can be done going forward to make sure that the views of residents are taken into account as the city grows and develops?
Well, that's an excellent question. And two of the things in my platform going forward is, firstly, I want to work with whatever colleagues there might be in the next term of council to make sure that reports that are going to committees go out earlier than they currently do. So they're in the public domain longer. People have a longer chance to read it, digest it, come up with their questions, and put their feedback. That's one of the things I want to do. I also want to tinker with when we have committee meetings. So they're not always in the morning, starting at 9:30, 10 o'clock, when a lot of people are working and can't get there. I want to play with how we can do with the meetings. We do have to reach out more. We have to use technology more. We have to use things like Facebook Live to bring more people in, have them participate as we're having the discussion. Those are some of the ideas that I want to put forward next term.
Okay, it's open to everyone on this topic. Go ahead.
I think we should talk about transparency. In the municipal government, the city doesn't really talk to its residents. It doesn't tell what developments are coming up next. It's usually, oh, here's a little notice, 2 weeks, give us your say. It's not a month or two in advance where we can have a lively discussion and talk about what is good for the city and what is good for each ward.
We could have the province tell the city to be more transparent and legislature to be more transparent, because it's never going to happen. It's going to be a secluded little club, the old boys club. They'll keep it all to themselves.
So we need.
It is extremely difficult to find the numbers of our budget, how much we're in debt, let alone try and find out how your city councillor voted on any particular issue. We need to have a lot of transparency. Everything right now is hidden. I challenge everyone out there to go on and try and find the numbers on our budget. Try and find how things were spent, and try and find how your city councillor voted and why he voted on this. Our last city councillor prior to this in 2006 put out a weekly newsletter. In that newsletter, he didn't do photoshops, kissing babies, going to barbecues. He explained what he voted on and why he voted on those issues. This is the transparency we need.
So one of the things that this term of council we did, we introduced a new budget tool online, which allows residents to go in and say, if I want to spend more money on the library or less money on the library, what does to do this service? You can manipulate, you can look at, you can see exactly what the situation is for your tax bill, for your tax situation. So it is there. As for the voting records, all of that is online. All of the meetings are on YouTube, and Rogers also puts them forth as they're happening live. So it is there. I'm not saying we don't have to get better. We do have to get better. That's why I'm saying we need to have, as Luigi suggested, we need to have the ideas or the asks and issues
you had 8 years to get better.
Out front.
Not 12 years. You have 8 years to get better. You never did it.
Well,
so what happened?
One of the things that I did do is I voted against the canceling of traditional minutes, and I was one of the few councillors that did that. Unfortunately, I didn't carry the day. I think it was still a huge...
Did you talk to other people to help carry the day?
Yes, I did,
Or you
sir.
sat on your ass,
Yes.
did nothing?
No, sir, I talked to other people. I wasn't the only one who voted to save the minutes, but unfortunately we were unsuccessful. I think that was one of the worst things that the City Council did. The minutes should be up there. I don't disagree. We now have action minutes up there. It helps, but it's not perfect. Next term of council, we can have that discussion again as we go into the governance discussion, but no question. And we can use technology to move these things forward. I have open houses
How do you
all the
want to use
time.
technology? Explain it.
Okay, so for example, Facebook Live, we used that for some consultations last year. People can watch as they want. They can come in, they can go out, they can comment on it in real time. They can tell us what they're interested in. We can take questions directly. So there are things technology-wise that we can use. We can use open houses, which I do on a regular basis. I have open houses either within a particular community or at the Sportsplex for more general issues. I bring out city services to talk.
I think that after the last 8 years, you've had the chance to show how you're going to be transparent. And this information is extremely difficult to find. It hasn't been made transparent to all of us or to all the people in Ward 9.
On this subject, I agree a lot with a lot of the things Keith said, and that's one of the reasons why, when I started going to door 4 months ago, I put it in my flyers. I talked about how we need city staff to be acceptable in the evenings, because unfortunately, the majority of our workplace and the majority of our working public works from 9 to 5, so they're not acceptable when Keith and his office staff are available. Furthermore, we need to increase the use of technology.
I'm available all the time. I answer emails at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night on weekends. If you email me, you are going to hear back from me, and you're going to hear back from me very quickly.
That's not what I've been hearing from the residents of the door.
I'm not sure who you're talking to.
But we also need to increase technology. Ottawa doesn't have an app where you can report things. Everything I'm hearing about the usage of 311 is very, very slow. People aren't hearing back from them in a timely manner. If that's your primary point of contact for city services, why is it taking so long for so many residents to hear back from them? Where are these delays coming from?
Keith talks about the budget tool that is online for the 2018 budget. I was doing research for this debate, and I went to see that I can't even access the information about the tool where you can move and stuff like that. He talked about there's 80 days worth of length that it was online, but why can't I see it now? It's just given me highlights of what the budget is currently, what the budget has currently, and now why can't I go in depth of the numbers and do my research?
Just like the service, where's my plow?
Exactly.
Well, you will be able to go into it again for the 2000. It's a live instrument. It looks
But
at
it's
the
not
current budget
actually
and
live.
tells you what you can do with it.
It's not actually live on the internet right now. If
No,
you
because
go,
we're not in budget deliberations right now.
but still,
Another
residents
example
should
of
be able to
transparency,
see
on
what
budget
the
day,
budget is at
we have
every
$22
single
million
moment.
surplus on the final budget day. Did they consult the public how they would like to spend our money? Or did they just divvy it up at the table as they found out about the budget? no consultation whatsoever. One thing I'm going to put in is that every single issue that I vote on, I'm going to record how I voted. I'm going to record why I voted that way.
We need new
Make
people
everything
in
transparent.
there. Get rid of all the old people, including the mayor. Get rid of them. Put all new incumbents in there.
And I'd like to say one thing. Since 2016, Keith Eglee has $266,000 of unspent ward budget money that hasn't gone back to the ward itself. Every year, he spends roughly about $15,000 on events and special donations, but there's $266,000. That's 1 year's worth of budget that the ward has that they did not get.
Stop there. Thank you, everyone. We'll go back to Keith Eglee. I asked you the question, so you get the last 30 seconds here.
So actually, I'm quite proud of the fact that I don't spend my office budget every year, and that's money that goes back into the city coffers to be used by the residents. And I've never got a complaint from a resident that I'm not spending enough out of my office budget. That's something that actually I'm quite pleased about. I get the services. If I get contacted by a community association that needs some help, if a community group, whatever, we're there for them. We provide them. But giving back the money, it goes back. It's hard-earned taxpayers' money. It goes back into the city to be spent for other things, and I don't have a problem with that.
All right, let's move to the next question. Peter Weber, what would you do to improve safety on neighborhood streets, and would you support using photo radar?
No photo radar, no red cameras. Get rid of the gateway. You can put stopway signs down, slow down traffic. I just walk through my neighborhood. People are speeding up to get to their kids to school and so forth. I'm not going to dig them for extra money over one little incident of speeding. We can put stop signs down, slow them down, put speed bumps, not going to cost anything. We can wind up sidewalks, make it more accessible for bicycling, make it safer that way. We can put up more crosswalks, more more red lights, slow down the traffic that way. And then the odd time, bring the police in, slow down the traffic, people get dinged with a little bit speeding. Traffic will go back down.
Okay, it's open to everyone on this topic of road safety on residential roads.
Well, one idea I see that works very well is on Queen Elizabeth, right near Dow's Lake. They have these huge speed bumps that aren't difficult to go over, but it definitely slows traffic. We'd have to clean our back streets, get the snow cleared, get the services back that keep our streets safe, and definitely speed bumps. Another issue I'd like to do is get community centers more involved in their own neighborhood. They know where the problems are. They know where all the speeding is. We need to give them more authority. If you want to see a change in your neighborhood, get involved in the community center, and you'll see these changes.
So, and those are great ideas, and I do work with the community associations. There's the Knoxdale-Merivale Council, which is made up of all the community associations. I hear from them regularly. I deal with each of the community associations directly. Some have dedicated individuals that work on traffic issues. We liaise with them.
What's your plan to slow down traffic then?
Well, my plan to slow down traffic is I was one of the people that championed the ward-specific traffic calming budget.
Those gateways are a hazard on the road.
That's not a gateway thing at all, sir. What it is to do the things you were just talking about: to put in signs, to put in pavement markings, to put in the flashing speed signs.
You're not going to see that in winter. You pull the gateways before winter. You won't see those little marks on the line. They'll be covered with snow.
You still see the speed signs,
You won't see that at all.
Three out of the 10 top most dangerous intersections are in our ward. Hunt Club in Woodruff, Hunt Club in Merivale, Baseline in Merivale. Those are three in the top 10 most dangerous intersections in our neighborhood. We need to put in photo speeding tickets for these major intersections.
At all.
For school
You're going
zones,
to tax
definitely
people
have
to the hill,
James,
just for that.
James, I absolutely agree with you on that. That notion or that motion went through my committee. I work with the provincial government of the day to
The Liberal government, the ones that got booted out.
Provincial government of the day that
the ones who wanted taxes for everything.
Okay, one at a time, please. There's lots
to
of time left for everybody
get photo radar into
speak.
our school zones. It's something that people are asking for.
No, they're not.
And in terms of whether or not it costs you not, I've said repeatedly, I'd be perfectly happy if we never issued a ticket, never earned a dime from photo radar, because that would mean people weren't speeding. But unfortunately, people do speed.
What is the revenue from photo radar right now?
We don't have photo radar
Okay,
right now.
where's the from red light cameras? What is the revenue from red light cameras?
So the revenue from photo radar is going to go back into more traffic calming. It's going to pay for traffic calming.
So you're not accomplishing. What is it? You're taking it as revenue. What are you going to do to improve the situation?
We
You
definitely need to
can
slow
use
down
that
traffic.
revenue for education,
What
for
do you mean
other,
education?
for other traffic calming.
What
We
traffic
need
calming? You
to
already
calm
did it.
Traffic. We have 3
What are you
of
gonna
the
do to
10
improve the
most dangerous
intersections?
intersections.
One
We
example,
have
please.
to do something to calm this. When people's lives are at stake, it's a trump card. You need to do something to protect lives. And traffic calming is definitely something that has to be taken
You can
seriously.
solve it by using stop signs,
Stop
red
signs at
lights.
Hunt Club
You
and
can
Woodruff will not work.
You can put speed bumps in. There's a lot of things that can
Again,
slow down
two
traffic.
of the most dangerous roads are on Hunt Club. Hunt Club and Woodruff, Hunt Club and Maribel.
Then why
And then
don't
we
you
have
open
Maribel
the
and
road
Baseline.
more? Why don't you have open the ward more off, say an off ramp of some sort, wind up the road, make it more lanes? People are getting frustrated.
There's an article in the Ottawa Citizen from 2016 that John Willing said that out of $920,000, there was only $146,000 or $156,000 that was spent on traffic calming budgets by the city councillors. And Keith Eglee, our incumbent in 2015, only spent $14,000. I have asked the city of Ottawa to send me more information on how much money that each councillor has spent from the beginning of this budget until this point. And
So I can help you with that right
Please,
now.
please.
So the first year that the program went into place, it had to go through the budget process. The last election was in 2014. You go into the budget process in 2015. You usually
But you only
vote-
spent
let me finish.
$14,000
You usually
in
vote on the
2015.
budget in February or March. The traffic calming, which I said is one of the things that I champion, was a brand new program. It wasn't in place at the beginning of 2015. It didn't go into place until sometime in the middle of the summer. There wasn't enough time to
I will
spend
post
the
the
money.
article on my website, and it will specifically say how much Keith Eglee has
Yes,
spent.
it will.
Yeah, and it was
you'll
only
see-
$14,000.
And you'll see other councillors also didn't spend the full $40,000 because there wasn't enough time to do it in that year.
But
you
that's,
have to order
I
the
will
speed
look
signs.
at the numbers when I get the numbers back from the city of Ottawa. I
I'm
will
just
report
explaining
to the
that's what
residents.
happened in that
I will
particular
report to
year.
the residents that how much you spent and how much the other councillors have spent. But what we need to do is we need to create more pedestrian crosswalks near our community centers.
The fact is
and we
right
need to
now-
We
use
don't
speed
need
cameras.
red light cameras.
Okay.
We don't need.
All right, I want to give Warren Arsanov a
We
chance
don't
to
have an
speak, please.
opportunity right now to calm traffic. It's not working. Each and every community that I've walked to, that I've knocked on doors, has said the same problem. People are speeding through our neighborhoods. It's great to say we're going to put in speed bumps and people go to the speed bump and speed up right after it. It's great to say we're going to have stop signs, but the fact is, if people don't stop, there's no enforcement, or there's very little enforcement. The only thing that's going to
So you're
stop
saying-
people
you're
is
saying
paying
residents are all
for their
criminals?
mistakes, and photo radar is the only option right now.
Okay, we'll stop there. Peter Weber, I asked you the question. You get the last 30 seconds on this.
Okay. No photo radar. No speed red light cameras. No more gateway. Put the select signs to slow down traffic. Widen out sidewalks for kids to ride their bikes on. Make it a safer city. Like, people have got to get to places. We understand that, but just slow down just a bit.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the next question, which I'll direct to Luigi Mangione. Do you think that the police budget should be increased by a greater amount than 2% per year? And what else would you do to fight rising gun violence in our community?
Well, I'd keep the police budget at the current levels that we currently have. There's no quick fix that can solve rising gun levels or crime levels. We need to actually be at the community level and offer more after-school program funding, anti-gun day activities, and we need to revitalize Neighborhood Watch. We need to actually spend the ward budget in the ward and giving money back to the residents of Knoxdale-Merivale to actually create a new Neighborhood Watch. Maybe get them walkie-talkies or some new vests and stuff like that, so they can be out there directing traffic, talking to the community.
Okay, it's open to everyone on the subject of the police budget and community safety.
In our city, we have a problem with gun violence right now. The police chief, the police services board, and the union all say the same thing. We need more officers on the ground. There's a lot of problems with it and there's a lot of issues, but we need to fund policing, because if we don't feel safe in our communities, we don't get the enjoyment in our community.
You can get CTV cameras like you have in England and Europe, United States, put them out there in rougher neighborhoods or out throughout the city, and spend the police budget a little bit more wisely. We'll hire more people for the guns and gangs units. Go after the crime where it's actually happening. We know the crime is going on Ottawa South. We know it's happening in Vanier and other places.
Our current police budget is running at 2012 staffing levels. Police budget isn't keeping up with our population growth. It's leaving the police in a very, very dire situation where they're just unable to attend to every issue that comes up. One thing, I believe it was Vern White, our old chief of police, said, if we spend $1 into our youth, it'll come back tenfold
We
in our
have
police
other
later.
police services in this.
We need to invest in our
We
youth,
have other
in our
police
troubled
services in
neighborhoods.
this city. We have the RCMP here. We have the Ottawa Police here. Why don't we all work together and solve the crime issue?
So this term of council, police officers have been at it, but I think part of the problem, I've been to the Police Services Board many times to talk about this, I think one of the mistakes that the Police Services Board made was to change the nature of our community policing model. They've reduced the number of community policing officers. That connection that the youth have and that other people have in the city with the police force is no longer there. They see them as police officers as opposed to someone they can go to, someone they can confide in, someone that they can have a relationship with in terms of dealing with problems. So, I've made this argument many times, and I think that what has to happen is we have to revisit how we do community policing. And one of the initiatives that I've been working on with the chair of the Police Services Board is I brought forward a number of ministers and pastors from our community that work with youth as well in a faith-based initiative to partner up with the police to work with those same youth and find and share resources, to share their concerns and to share their ability to deal with the problem and deal with the community. And that's just getting underway with this year. We had a very positive meeting a couple of months ago. We had, I think, 14 or 15 members of the clergy come out.
What concrete action are you actually doing to solve it?
And that is going to lead to a partnership with police services. It's going to help to fill in that gap that the community policing.
So that's what's going on now, or just as future talk?
No, we've started the process. We've had the initial meetings. More are coming.
When was the initial process?
We had our first meeting a few months ago.
So it's not going to happen anytime soon.
When I ran in 2010, one of my campaign issues was to partner with all the local communities, all the local churches. We currently have volunteers in place, mentoring the youth. The city needs to partner with them to help our youth out, to grow them into happy, healthy, productive members of society. And what better way to do that through our local communities that already exist and all the infrastructure already built.
One of the biggest problems for the police department right now isn't increased spending, but it's budgetary pressures because of problems. There's two that I've been able to identify when I've talked to police officers and heard from the unions. And the two major ones are we have a tremendous number of officers who are on personal leave for issues. I understand the job's stressful. I understand PTSD is a reality. But the fact is, why are our number of officers on leave higher than in other jurisdictions like Toronto as a percentage? What is going on in the administration of the police department as overseen by council through the Police Services Board that we have so many officers dealing with these personal issues that are having trouble dealing with them? And we need to make it better human resources, better resources available to the officers who are in need so that they get the support we need, but it'll also in tune cut down the excess officers that we have on leave who aren't doing their daily jobs because they're facing personal issues.
When you're running at 2012 staffing levels, a lot of people are going to deal with stress, anxiety, and are going to need time
So they're
off.
burning out.
We need to keep our police up with population. We need to support our police 100% so that they're there when we need them. I'm 100% behind keeping up with the budget on the police.
Yeah, and again, the other piece that a lot of cities or a number of cities are doing is they're looking at neighborhoods and communities and criminal activity in a different way. They're bringing in social workers, they're bringing in mental health workers to work with the communities, because it's not always, the root cause isn't always crime. There are mental health issues, there are poverty issues, there are all sorts of things that go on. So a number of communities are experimenting with that. I think that's a road that we need to go down as well. And again, we need to really sit down next term and have a very difficult
But
discussion
you had 8 years to finish all this.
And again,
You had
sir,
8 years.
I have been to police services. I have made this case over and over again, as has Councillor Deans, as has Councillor Brockington. Unfortunately, we've been...
It's time to leave. You had 8 years to solve
we've been in
this
the
issue, and
minority.
you haven't done it.
Time for a change. Police budget is going down. We're not keeping up with it. You've had your chance over 8 years.
Time to reboot
You've had your
this
chance
city.
to prove it. You haven't proven it.
It's also the time that the City of Ottawa Policing got compensated for the spending we do for federal institutions,
The center's
for
already rebuilt
motorcades,
old
and
social
other
needs.
things.
It's time to wrap up that discussion. Luigi Mangone, I asked you the question. You get the last 30 seconds on your own.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Ottawa Police Services for the great work that they continue to do day in, day out. And going forward, we need to strengthen the relationships with the police service and the community members, and we should not be afraid of the people who protect us. We need to be proactive instead of reactive. It's important that all community members talk to each other, and maybe we can get our neighborhood watch revitalized again, and I hope to do that soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next question I'll direct to James Dean. As you know, only 4 of the current 24 seats on City Council are held by women. No matter what happens in this election, since all of you are men, the next representative for Knoxdale-Merivale ward will be a man. So what can be done to increase the diversity on City Council and increase diversity in city decision-making? And would you support the creation of a Women's Bureau at City Hall?
I agree with the creation of a Women's Bureau. We need to reach out to different communities, like high schools and colleges, and get more of the public involved in City Council. One thing with politics is our city councillors are not held accountable except for during election time. So once every 4 years, people like the 4 of us can come forward, hold our current councillor accountable for what's going on. Let's reach into the high schools and the colleges and get more of the kids involved, not just boys or someone who is so frustrated that they're stepping forward. Let's make this a reality for all young people together.
All right, it's open to everyone on the subject of diversity and equality in city decision-making.
Well, Mark, when the issue came up, I certainly supported the vote at Council to have staff go up and come up with a model for a Women's Bureau and how to increase diversity at the city. I think it's an important issue. I had no problem with whatsoever, and I look forward to what the city manager and his team come up with in terms of how that would be set up, how that would be funded, and that's going to be coming forward early in the new year. It's an important issue. I think James is right that the city needs to do more outreach. One of the things that I've discussed with the city managers in terms of creating diversity at the city, not just at the elected level, but in the ranks of the employees, is we've got to stop simply just posting jobs on the city website. We have to go out to diverse communities. We have to say, even when there's no jobs available, and say, these are the sorts of things you can do at the city. Did you know you could be an arborist? Did you know you could be a policeman?
Why don't we start at the high school level instead?
All those
Go
things.
to the schools and
And
tell them what's going on.
Can I please finish?
No. Why don't we just...
We've got lots of time left in this segment, so we don't, everybody will
So
get
the
a
point
turn.
is, I think we have to be more proactive. We have to go out to the communities that we're trying to attract. We have to sell the city. We have to sell the city to the communities, tell them what the benefits are of working for the city, what the work experience can be. And we also have to, within the city, we have to mentor the employees that we have, move them up into the management ranks so there's role models for other employees going forward. So in my discussions with Steve Kanalakis, he's of the same mind, and we've got to get moving on it. But I think thank you to Councillor Deans and Councillor McKenney for putting on everybody's radar and moving the issue forward.
This is one of the issues where my opinion's changed since this campaign began. At the beginning, I was fully in favor of a Women's Bureau, and I definitely see the advantages in it. But after speaking to large numbers of people in different diverse communities, they said, well, what about us? What about the LGBTQ community? What about different ethnic groups? What about different social classes? The fact is, having diversity at City Hall is enormously important. Having a bureau where somebody can go to say, my rights, my group, my association isn't being represented, or I'm having this problem with City Hall because of my diversity, that's really important. But if we restrict it to one group dedicated only to women, how many other groups are are still left out in the cold. I want to spend the resources, I want to spend the money, and I want that support to be there, but not only for women, but for every single resident of the city of Ottawa who feels like they need that support because they're diverse. Be it finding a job at City Hall, getting accountability from their elected representatives, help with the bureaucracy, whatever it takes, everybody should be represented. Women are a big group, an important group, and definitely should have that representation, but it cannot just be limited to women. It's got to be for everyone.
And that's a good point, Warren. And I think the point I was trying to make is the fact that Councillor Dean's brought this forward has kickstarted that whole bigger discussion. And again, as I say, in the discussions that I had with the City Manager's office, it was about diversity writ large. It was about reaching out to any number of different communities and bringing them into the city and showing them the benefits of what the city can offer them and seeing what they can offer us.
So we need to start at the high school level, at the high school, university level. Tell them to go out. Anyone can come and become a politician. Pay your $100. Get your 25 seniors. Come on out. It'll be all girls next time, all women next time, not all guys. It changed every time. We had a woman premier last time. Now it's a man premier. We also had a woman prime minister, short-lived. But it was a woman prime minister. Just get out, come out, join the forum.
I support a women's bureau as well in the city, and it's important for women to have a voice in city planning and city politics. Diversity is also important where every group of the community needs to have a voice. I applaud the initiatives of Councillors Dean and Councillor McKenney on the subject, and I would like to hear the recommendations from the city manager as well. Councillor Eglee was talking about how we should be selling the city. No, the city should be selling itself. People would want to work for the city because it's a great place to work for, diverse, everybody's welcome, and it's important to be inclusive in all of our speech and how we promote the city as well.
And Luigi, I think we're saying exactly the same thing.
We are, yeah.
All right. Anyone else on that topic? Okay. James Dean, I asked you the question, so you get 30 seconds now to wrap up on this.
So we all seem to be in agreement that a diverse community bureau may be better than a women's bureau. That way all diverse communities that would like help could come forward and have some aid in that. We need to reach out to our colleges, to our high schools, doing some job fairs, more encouraging people to step forward and believe that they can actually make a difference if they do step forward. Instead of showing favoritism.
Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you to all of you for participating in that discussion and in all of the debates that we've had today. We are going to move to the closing statements now. Once again, each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver a closing statement to you. We will do the closing statements in the reverse order of the opening statements, which again was drawn at random before our telecast. So we will begin with Luigi Mangione. You have 1 minute. Go right ahead.
Thank you. This was my first debate experience. I'm appreciative of the opportunity that Roger TV has provided me to voice the concerns of my fellow residents of Knoxdale-Merivale, which includes the poor allocation of their tax dollars, the degrading quality of their public services, and a fleeting sense of their environmental and economic security. I'd like to thank the fellow candidates for a lively and productive debate. I'd like to thank my mom, my dad, my family, my friends, and my teachers. Without them today, without them, I wouldn't be here today. I'm humbled and grateful for this moment. I hope my experience as a public servant dealing with finance makes me the best candidate to listen and to be able to represent your voice on City Council. And when you go out, October 22nd, I hope you vote Luigi Mangione. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next up is Peter Weber, and like the other candidates, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Come out and vote. It's time for a change. It's time for a safer community. It's time to vote these people out. They're not doing their job. It's time to bring a new caliber people. It's time for a more greener, safer community. It's time not to tax us for everything that we do. It's time to it's time to work together. It's time to sorry.
Do you want the rest of your time?
No.
Okay. We'll stop there and we'll move to the next candidate, Keith Eglee. You have 1 minute as well.
Thank you, Mark. And I want to thank everyone for a spirited and a respectful debate. The dialogue is so important. I look forward to the next 4 years. I believe that by working with the residents of Ward 9, much more can be achieved. We have more parks to renew, we have more roads to fix, we have more work to be done on our environmental files, and that's why one of my campaign proposals is to set up a ward-based environmental advisory committee going forward. There's more work to be done on our seniors issues. I already have a robust seniors outreach program, but we're going to build on that if elected and hold a seniors summit early in 2019 to find out more about what the seniors in our ward want and how we can achieve those goals for them. And I look forward to the discussion with my colleagues to make committee reports open and available earlier, more accessible to residents so they can get input in earlier and in a more timely way. So please join me on this journey of community building. I look forward to continuing to work with the very engaged residents of Ward 9. I would ask you on October 22nd to please vote Eglee. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Warren Arshinoff. Go ahead.
I want to first thank Rogers for having us. I want to thank the other candidates for a great debate today. But most importantly, I want to thank you, the voters, for paying attention, for being engaged, and for trying to find out who to cast their mark beside on October 22nd. I live in this community, I work in it, and now I want to represent it because I want to represent you and fight for the issues that matter to you. I have my opinions and they're very important to me, but the fact is I want to work for each and every one of you and follow the opinions that matter to you. When I go out every day, I hear people who are talking about wanting summer garbage service, and I completely agree with that on a weekly basis. I hear about people asking for more accessibility and accountability at City Hall. I know there's work to do, and I know I'm not going to be perfect from day one or anywhere close to that. So, like any public servant who gets paid on an escalating scale, I pledge to donate $500 a month for my first year to various charities and community groups within our ward to better them and to show that I want to find out more about them and fight for them. On October 22nd, vote Warren.
Okay, thank you. Finally, the closing statement from James Dean. Go ahead.
Again, my name is James Dean. You can find me at www.jamesdean.ca. I grew up in the neighborhood. I went to St. Gregory's, Frank Ryan, Merivale High School, took business out of Algonquin College, ran a number of businesses in the neighborhood, very strict with the numbers and very strict on transparency. The federal government has put us very far into debt. The provincial government has put us extremely far into debt. The municipal government, since 2010, have gone from $800 million debt to $2.2 billion. They've almost tripled our debt in 8 short years. This year alone, they borrowed another $300 million. That's a 10% tax levy that you were not even aware of. We're currently paying $200 million a year to service that debt. So we pay $200 million on one hand, we borrow $300 on the other hand. It makes no sense. We need to get our spending under control. This runaway skyrocketing debt has to end. It's time for a change. Vote James Dean on October 22nd.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in the debate for Ward 9, Knoxdale-Merivale Ward, and good luck in the rest of the campaign. Thank you for being here. And thank you for watching. I want to remind you that Election Day is October the 22nd. That's when you'll be able to vote for the candidate in your ward, whether you live in Knoxdale-Merivale or elsewhere. It is also when you will be able to see the results of this municipal election in Ottawa. We will have live coverage of the results and analysis of what it will mean for the next 4 years, beginning at 8 o'clock when the polls close, right here on Rogers TV and also simulcast on 1310 News Radio. Thank you for joining us on the local campaign.